Let's quickly discuss about JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. The introduction page for JSON at W3 Schools says that JSON is a syntax for storing and exchanging data, and JSON is text written with JavaScript object notation. And under the exchanging data section, it says that when exchanging data between a browser and a server, the data can only be text. And since JSON is text, we can convert a JavaScript object into JSON and send that JSON to the server. So JSON is text, and we can convert a JavaScript object into JSON and then send that to the server. Let's look at how to convert a JavaScript object into JSON. I'm in the browser console over here. I'm going to assign a variable called obj to an object. So I'm going to type a:1 and b:2. And so now obj is this object over here. If we want to convert this into JSON, we can write JSON equals JSON.stringify, and we can pass obj to stringify. This JSON in uppercase is a built-in object that is available for us to use, and it has two very useful methods, stringify and parse. Currently we are using stringify over here, and we have passed this object as a parameter to stringify. If we click on enter, we can see that we have a string as the output. You can see the double quotes at the beginning and at the end over here. So this is a string, and this is JSON text, and this is the JSON equivalent of this JavaScript object over here. Once we have prepared this text, we can send that JSON text to the server, and we can also convert any JSON received from the server into JavaScript objects. So the opposite operation of converting JSON into JavaScript objects is also possible. So let's look at an example for that also. This variable JSON in lowercase now has JSON text. So if we write JSON.parse, and if we pass this JSON variable to it, then we'll get back a JavaScript object. So what we have done here is we have taken this JavaScript object and we have used JSON.stringify to convert it into JSON, and then we have used JSON.parse method to convert this JSON text back into an object. If we go to the documentation at developer.mozilla.org, then that page lists some JavaScript and JSON differences. And the most important differences to keep in mind are JSON allows only double-quoted strings. So if we take a look at an example, these values over here on the right are strings, and we can see that they have double quotes. The difference between a JavaScript string and a JSON string is that JSON strings only allow double quotes. And another important difference is that in objects, property names must be double quoted strings. That means if we take this JSON object over here, these property names that are appearing on the left of the colon, they have to be within double quotes. So this is one very important point to remember, that strings need double quotes in JSON, and in objects the keys are strings as well, so they also need double quotes. Other minor differences are trailing commas are forbidden. For example, in JavaScript we can have an array and we can have a trailing comma at the end like this. As you can see here, I have placed a trailing comma at the end over here, and that is valid syntax in JavaScript, but the same is not allowed in JSON. And also there are no provisions for undefined or comments. So let's do a quick recap. The JSON object contains methods for parsing JSON and converting values to JSON. So if we have a JavaScript object, we can use JSON.stringify and we can get the JSON text equivalent of the JavaScript object. And to do the opposite process, that means if we have JSON text, we can use the JSON.parse method and get back a JavaScript object. And these two methods are important because, for example, if you have a JavaScript object, we'll use the stringify method and get some JSON text, and then we can send that JSON to the server. And similarly, if we get some JSON from the server, we can take that JSON text and run it through JSON.parse and get back the JavaScript object. So whenever we interact with the server, we typically use JSON.stringify and JSON.parse. And regarding the syntax of JSON, it is mostly similar to JavaScript, but we have to remember that JSON string need double quotes, and keys in objects are strings, so they need double quotes as well. In most front-end applications, JSON is the format in which we get data from the server's API. Going forward in this course, whenever we say API, It will mean an API that returns and accepts JSON.